In addition, your conflagration is going to be triggering your Fingers of Frost. No, I'm good. No, I'm good. I appreciate the kind words, but as I always say, you have to expect the unexpected. I'm Hey yo, it's time for another caster build in Project Ascension. I've been enjoying the Frozen Chaos legendary enchant, so that's the one we're going to be talking about today. So to get started, Frozen Chaos, your Frostbolt and Ice Lance critical hits grant you a charge of Frozen Chaos. This is going to be able to reset the cooldown of Chaos Bolt, and you can store 3 of these charges. Along with resetting the cooldown of Chaos Bolt, it's also going to be increasing the damage of our Chaos Bolt by 20%, and the spell power scaling by 40%. Frozen Chaos, it does a few things. Mainly the buff is really good when we get that from Frostbolt and Ice Lance, so we want to be getting a lot of that, so crits are going to be a good friend. And Conflagration, giving us that Splintered Chaos, is going to be doing a lot of good cleave damage, since that Chaos Bolt is going to be then hitting an additional target. So again, because we can stack this up to 3 times, it will actually be giving us basically 3 free casts of Chaos Bolt if we stack it up all the way. So it's not that, you know, we use a Chaos Bolt and then we get 60% damage on one. It's 3 Chaos Bolts, right? So that's super useful. I've also been really liking the Chaos Meteor Epic Enchant to go with this build, just for more AoE. To those unfamiliar, Chaos Meteor is going to be transferring our Infernal spell into Chaos Meteor. This is going to be calling down a meteor which lands at the target location after 2 seconds, dealing some fire damage and disorientating enemies for 3 seconds. Any damage will break the effect. Now, this ability does scale and trigger with the same things as Chaos Bolt, so we are going to be getting some benefit from the Frozen Chaos as well. It's not going to be resetting the cooldown of Chaos Meteor, but it is going to be doing additional damage, which is nice. I've also been playing around with Fire and Ice. Fire and Ice is going to be making our Deep Freeze make the target vulnerable to our fire spells, making them guaranteed to critically strike, but also to thaw the Deep Freeze effect. Then finally, for our epic enchants, we did pick up Leftovers. Dealing non-periodic damage with frost spells and abilities increases your fire damage by 2%, stacking up to 5 times. Now, originally when I went into this build, I thought it was going to be a lot more frost based, and then you'd get a proc of Chaos Bolt and use that when you can. This is actually going to be more of a fire build with Fingers of Frost, your interweaving Ice Lance. And some takes on this build don't even pick up the Frostbolt. So I'm leaning that way as well. It's really hard to get a Frostbolt in, only because we're getting so many procs from other things. So I just don't think it's going to be necessary. So rotation wise, it's really important that you're starting out with Immolate. Immolate is going to be allowing us to cast Conflagrate. Now, if you remember from the legendary enchant, this spell is very important. It's going to be consuming that Immolate, and it's going to be allowing us to get some cleave damage on our Chaos Bolts. Conflagrate is also going to be giving us our Fingers of Frost, so we don't have to worry about proccing it with Frostbolt. Now, you're going to be pretty much using Conflagrate on cooldown. The only thing you want to put at a higher priority is Chaos Bolt when you have your procs. Now, again, we're going to be using Conflagrate to get Fingers of Frost procs. Then with those, we're going to be using Ice Lance to hopefully get some crits. And with those crits, we'll be able to cast Chaos Bolt with the buff Frozen Chaos. Now in groups, you're going to be changing that rotation a very small amount. You want to put more emphasis on the cleaving with your Conflagrate. And you want to weave in Chaos Meteor when available. Now again, Frozen Chaos is going to be increasing the damage our Chaos Meteor does, So it's good if possible to have Frozen Chaos up as well before using Chaos Meteor, but it's much more important to get the Chaos Meteor before all the mobs die. I also like weaving in Blizzard, just a good kind of quick channel spell, because again, all these have cast times. You know, it can be hard to eke in damage at the very end if you don't think you have time to cast a Chaos Bolt. So weaving in a Blizzard every now and again I find beneficial. The only thing I didn't talk about yet is Deep Freeze. With Deep Freeze, we can actually use that Fingers of Frost stack to immediately apply Deep Freeze. That will of course then give our other abilities a 100% chance to crit with the legendary enchant we talked about previously. So weaving in a quick Deep Freeze before getting your Chaos Bolt off can lead to some really sick guaranteed damage. It's important to mention my item level is currently around 51, so definitely on the lower side, but in a lot of the dungeons I've been doing, at least on bosses, I've definitely been doing top DPS, which feels really good. I also have a good amount of PvE power, which is always important, as I mentioned in the guide. Now, as I kind of mentioned at the start, I originally thought this was going to be a very Frostbolt centered build. You know, obviously I just did Invoker, which is definitely pretty Frostbolt centric, so I had that same mindset. That's actually not correct. It seems that you really are going to be struggling to cast a lot of Frostbolts because you get so many procs, because you get a guaranteed Fingers of Frost from Conflagrate, and then that's at least 2 Ice Lances or the Ice Lance and a Deep Freeze. And then by then, hopefully you've gotten 1 or 2 stacks to use Chaos Bolt or to use Chaos Meteor. So pretty rarely are you using that Frostbolt, at least in my current rotation. So again, I originally picked up Improved Frostbolt and Empowering Frostbolt. I'd actually recommend picking up more in the Destructions tree or even more in the Fire Mage tree for fire critical strike damage, higher fire critical strike in general. Since this build relies specifically on Chaos Bolt, that is not an ability you're going to be getting until level 60. So definitely not a build I would recommend early game. I would, you know, go a different build and then swap into it level 60 if you, again, choose to do so. Now, I really specifically want to talk about this talent called Burnout, because this talent is one of many that is going to be increasing the critical strike damage bonus of your spells by 100%. Now, because there's so many of these spells and they do not stack with each other, I specifically want to call out Burnout as the one I would recommend for this build. I previously tried the one in the Frost tree called Ice Shards, and Burnout is doing a lot more. There's also one in the Shaman tree that I gave a try, but again, Burnout is just doing great. The capstone bonus reads, dealing direct fire damage on targets afflicted by your ignite increases your spell damage by 6% for 8 seconds. Dealing direct magic non-fire damage to targets affected by your ignite causes an explosion. Dealing damage to all nearby enemies. Both effects require the final rank of ignite. So of course with that, we got ignite. Ignite is pretty good for us since we're going a lot of crits anyway. Definitely a crit build and a hit rate build. So I think that's gonna be it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and definitely have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.